So thank you, sir, for this answer. Would like to ask the next question is that what are the major challenges that you faced in driving such grassroots innovation? Also, how successful do you think have you been in moving these grassroots of the economic pyramid? You so we've heard many of your speeches where you say that they might be at the bottom of the economic pyramid, but not at the bottom of the creative pyramid. So do you think that you have been successful in driving such innovators from the bottom of the economic pyramid, although they might not be in the bottom of the creative pyramid? Because I think at the end of the day, it is very important for us to have money in our pockets, a house to live in, and some basic source of income. So how do you think you have been successful in that front?
Yeah, so I must now take you back to the instruments that we developed, policy instruments, and the way these instruments made a difference. So first of all, you should remember that when we started, in 97, we had a conference at IMA, the first conference in RJM Hall, the Vimathai Hall, called as International Conference on Creativity and Innovation Infrastructure. In that conference, we invited Chief Secretary of Gujarat, Mr. Sheller, S.K. Sheller, very upright officer. And we said, look, we have documented all these innovations, but we have not made much difference. This exact question that you asked. We're not making difference to the lives. So what should we do? Should we close this program? Should we stop the honeybee program? He said, no, I am announcing here that we'll create a fund. And by the time we had created a prototype idea of a kind of a micro venture fund. So we said, Innovation Investment Enterprise, the triangle that you must remember was the logo of GYAN, Innovation Investment, a golden triangle of Innovation Investment Enterprise, because all the three are in three different places, three different people, three different systems, how to bring them together. So Gujarat government came forward. I sent a note from IMA and based on experience of Srishti. And the first institutional intervention took place when Additional Chief Secretary Agriculture, Additional Chief Secretary Rural Development, Additional Chief Secretary Industry, three corporate chiefs, three professors from IIM, three voluntary organizations, and Gujarat Venture Fund CEO. This was the board of GYAN. A board like this was never created anywhere in the world. With three senior most policymakers, three faculty members from IIM, three voluntary organizations, three corporate chiefs. And this board was created on 1st March. Conference was on 11th to 14th January to 1997. On 1st March 1997, GYAN was set up. So this was our first breakthrough where state, academia, industry were working together and trying to solve problems cooperatively. So I must say that this was the first breakthrough. Then we realized within 2 or 3 years of GYAN that it needed to be scaled up. So I met several secretaries to government in 98. 6 months I spent in trying to convince them that they should scale up what we have done. We had about 10,000 innovation by the time. So everybody was offering a project. I said, look, I have done this project. Pilot has been done. We don't have to do the pilot again. I have done through my own resources. I have not taken one penny from government for this. But somehow they were not getting convinced. So Gopal Krishnan, who was at that time Additional Secretary of Culture, was a senior IAS officer from Gujarat. Somebody introduced me to him, and I talked to him. He introduced me to one Dr. E.S. Sharma, who was Secretary Expenditure in Ministry of Finance. He said he's a physics PhD. You go and talk to him. He might understand what you're talking about. Dr. Sharma made me sit outside his office for about 3-4 hours. He had some guests suddenly, and professors don't like waiting outside, but I had to wait that day. I was about to go, feeling very upset. Then he came out, apologized, and took me in. He saw the database for 15 minutes. He said, wait a minute. He called our finance secretary, Dr. Kelkar, Vijay Kelkar, who was later became the advisor to finance minister during just once in time, and then the 13th Finance Commission chairman. He said, come. And mind you, it was December 98. And the budget is just 2 months away. So they were very busy. He said, come for 5 minutes. They spent another half an hour with me. Then I said, if you're not convinced, I'll come after 5 years. No, we are convinced. What do you want? I said, I want to create a National Innovation Foundation. And I put a figure something like 200 crores, which will be able to make a difference to these innovations that we have, give them risk capital, give them this, that, various ideas I mentioned, value addition, and so on. Now, mind you, again, the idea of NIF was born out of based on experience of Gyan. Gyan was trying to make this triangle possible. Gyan's idea came from Srishti of documenting innovations or converting them into businesses. So when I made this point, after some time, Kargil happened. But in the meanwhile, Finance Minister in the 99 budget had announced that a National Innovation Foundation will be set up in the budget speech. Now, when you announce something in the budget speech, it becomes an assurance. And when the issue was raised that there's no money after Kargil war, he said, no, I've come to the parliament, we have to create. So instead of 200 crores, we got 20 crores. On 1st March 2000, we created National Innovation Foundation. The only country where the national innovation system included both formal and informal sector innovation was India. And even today, the kind of integration that we have done of two knowledge system in India, no one else has done. So that was the second major breakthrough. Gyan was the first major breakthrough. And I was second breakthrough. And then we made a proposal in 2002 to the Ministry of Finance. At that time also, I think Dr. Kelkar was advisor to the Finance Minister. I said, you have microfinance for goods and services for which market exists. There is no micro venture finance in the country, nowhere in the world. You may not ever heard about it. So we should create a micro venture innovation fund. Because if risk capital is important for biotechnology, risk capital is important for information technology, why isn't it important for the grassroots innovation? It's even more important. This was the point. So again, in the budget speech, Rakesh Mohan was advisor to the Finance Minister. He piloted it, and the line was included in the speech that India will set up a micro venture innovation fund. And with the help of SIDBI, Small Scale Industry Development Bank of India, in October 2003, the fund was created, $1 million, 5 crore, of which 1 crore was transaction cost. Mind you, when you have venture funds, you have 2%, 3% is the transaction cost because you have big deals. Here, amounts are small, the transaction costs were higher. And government agreed for that. Whatever I suggested, they agreed. So we created a macro venture innovation fund, which recovered more than 70 to 75% money. Which means people of this country, without a stamp paper, without a legal agreement, without a collateral, without hypothecating any property or asset, could get money to convert their ideas into business. And this was an experiment only of its kind. No obligation, no collateral, no asset. And the risk was being taken. If nothing works, well, we will write off. But fortunately, 75% of money came back. Mind you, the microfinance claimed much more recovery with group guarantee and this and that, 1,000 other things. Here we could go up to 5 lakhs, in some cases 10 lakhs. So it was not microfinance in that sense. It was a micro venture fund because for many enterprises, need-based loan was given. So that was, I would say, third important breakthrough. Then, of course, we created fund for filing patents for them because if you have to license, not every innovator becomes an entrepreneur. So you have to create licensing, a framework for that. Licensing, why will a company take license if there's no intellectual property protection? Because anybody can then copy. They invest in supply chain, they create a distribution chain, and then somebody else starts entering the market. It will be difficult for many companies to then get interested in that. So we created a framework both of intellectual property protection, as I mentioned earlier, and also for licensing. So our rate was around 10% of the innovations that were filed patent for were licensed. CSIR also has about 9 to 10%, which is much higher than anywhere else. Generally, 2 to 3% patent get commercialized. So that was the mechanism through which money went to the people. And all licenses, the entire money went to people. Not 1% was charged as transaction cost by them, or for that matter by Srishti or Gyan. So I think these were the processes through which we were trying to convert innovators either into entrepreneurs or licensing and finding third-party entrepreneurs to take their ideas and giving them royalty. We did that. In many cases, we created visibility for them. In exhibition, their slot was purchased so they could go at India Fair that in Delhi, the Pragati Maidan exhibition. Now, they couldn't hire that place. We hired the place and paid, give them a space. Then they directly talk to the consumers, a potential investor, a potential marketeer, a potential trader from around the world. People come and take part in those exhibitions. We also tried to create G2G model, grassroots to global, where we received queries from 60 countries at that time, talking about almost 7-8 years ago. And we sold things in many countries, Europe, US, India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, Ethiopia, Kenya, many countries. So we were proving many things. We were putting the globalization model on its head. Globalization is when large corporations sell things to small people. Here we're trying to sell products of small people to large global markets. It was just reverse. And since it was empirical, real products were moving, it was visible. People could see that. In a project in Kenya, we transferred 3 technologies: a small tractor, they called it Shuja in Kenya, in Swahili, a dibbler for sowing, and a multi-purpose food processing machine. So we tried to, therefore, create many policy instruments for scaling up. But we realized that there's a long tail of innovation. Not everything will diffuse widely. There were solutions which are niche specific, and they will go to certain niches. So yes, I would say that people at the bottom of the economic pyramid were not at the bottom of the entrepreneurial pyramid. They did show entrepreneurial spirit wherever possible, and some of our entrepreneurs are crorepati. So we had a session before year in Vibrant Gujarat where we said, "Kaun bana hai? Main kaise bana crorepati?" It was not "Kaun banega crorepati?" Kaise bana crorepati? Mansukh Prajapati, the man who made Mitti Cool, exports to 40-50 countries. Go and see his workshop. You will not believe such a big showroom. He bought a car long time ago. He has huge space. He was 70 when he lost about 21 lakh was the karja when we came in contact with him. 21 lakh. Today he is multi-millionaire. So Dharamveer, he has 3-story house, 2 cars, and employs 30 people and sells machine all over the world and makes his own products. Aloe vera gel, this, that, 1,000 things, black garlic and so on. So I must say that these are people who can go and visit them, meet them, talk to them. They will also be coming to our sketchy course. Tomorrow there are some people coming to the class on entrepreneurship. Anamika will bring them. So these are real people. You can talk to real people and talk to them. So I would say that it is possible. We have done it, and you can also do it. You can all be part of this process.